this video, we will be learning how to write and read and knit from a simple lace chart. So here we're making this, which will be kind of a pretty headband when we're done. And it just uses knits, purls, knit two togethers, SSKs or slip knits, and yarn over the needle. So here I've written down the key, which is important. So the key is key. This blank space would be knit on the right side, purl on the wrong side. This is purl on the right side, knit on the wrong side. This is K2 tog or knit two together. This is SSK or slip knit, which makes these left leaning decreases right here. And then yarn over, where you put the yarn over the needle without knitting a stitch, and that creates these cute little holes that make it into lace. So starting with our chart, we're going to write the numbers of the rows. So with our first row will be 1, and we're going to read that from the right side, the right, as in right versus left, the right edge. And then we're going to be reading that from right to left. Then when you turn your work, you start reading the chart from left to right. So it's helpful if you put your numbers just before where you start reading the chart. So here we go, 3, 4. I'm just gonna do all these first because I'll smear them. All right, 4, 6, and 8, 3, 5, and 7. All right, so starting out, we have kind of a garter stitch border, which we'll block off here. And it's kind of easy to write a garter stitch border, which is basically 3, you knit on both sides, so knit on right side, and then this is knit on the wrong side, so knit on the right side, knit on the wrong side, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Awesome. And we do the same thing here, so knit on the wrong side on all these wrong side rows. And then we're going to have a purl column that separates the edges from the lace section. And you can see where the knit on the wrong side kind of is the most apparent. So here you go. So all the way through 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So on the first row, we have knit 3, purl 1, knit 3, and then we're going to K2 tog, yarn over. So whenever you decrease in lace, unless you're shaping it, you always have to balance out one decrease with one increase. We have knit 2, then yarn over, and then SSK. Here we go. Very good. And on the following rows, our K2 tog is going to be after a knit 2, and then a yarn over, going to knit 4 after the yarn over, and that is going to create the look of these sort of wings or leaves floating away from each other. Then on the 5th row, your K2 tog, yarn over, then you'll knit 2, then you're going to purl 2, and that is forming, oh, I meant purl 2, I don't know why I drew 3, and that is what whiteout is for, yay! And then you do 1, 2, yarn over, and then SSK. And then on the way back, you'll notice we also will knit those center 2 stitches. So as you can see on this side, we have these 2 stitches in the center are purled on the right side and knit on the wrong side. So, and then our last odd row has the K2 tog right up close to the purl column. It also has the center 2 stitches purled, and get that yarn over. And then on the last row, we do not knit these 2 center stitches. All right. So now we are going to knit what we see on this chart. So I'll start by knitting with my left hand, and then I will go on knitting with my right, just to show you how the stitches look different. So you start with the knit 3, so you insert your needle, grab your yarn, bring it through and then off, in, grab your yarn, through and off, in, grab the yarn, through and off, move your yarn to the front, purl 1, and then we're going to knit 3 as it says, 1, 2, 3, so 1, 2, 3, and then K2 tog is when you knit 2 stitches together, pretty self-explanatory. So from the bottom up, starting with the stitch that is most to the left, you go in, and you just knit them together as if you were knitting 1 stitch. And that creates this right-leaning stitch. We have a yarn over, and then, then we knit these 2 center stitches, yarn over. So a yarn over is just putting the yarn over the needle without knitting a stitch. Now this SSK can be knit a couple different ways. So the way I usually do it is I slip 1, slip 2. I'm slipping them both as if to knit, and then I slide them back on. So I'm basically turning them around. Then I put them back on the needle, but I don't take them off this needle. I pick up the yarn and pull it through, and that makes a left leaning decrease. I knit 3, 2, 3, then I purl 1, and then I knit these last 3. Alright. Return. We're gonna look, so here, this will say knit 4 because it's P on right side, K on wrong side. So we're going to start with our knit 4, and we make sure the yarn is in the back if our first stitch is a knit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we bring the yarn to the front. We're going to purl 12. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright, so purling on the wrong side is the same as knitting on the right side. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then I bring it to the back and I knit 4, 2, 4. Alright, so this row, these next 2 rows, I'm going to show you how to knit with your right hand. Sometimes people hold the yarn just like they were using their left hand, and that's usually a little easier. So we do wrap the yarn around. 1, 2, 3. When you're knitting with your right hand, you need to be a little more deliberate about bringing the yarn forward when you're about to do a purl. So 1, and then back, and then 1, 2. Next up is knit 2 together. Bring it back. And then for a yarn over, when you're knitting with your right hand, sometimes I just bring the yarn forward. In older knitting patterns, we'll just say yarn forward and then it'll say to knit, and you'll see why. Because you bring the yarn forward, then you knit, and you've automatically added a yarn over. 2, 3, 4. Then I'm going to bring the yarn forward and make an SSK. So slip, slip, slide the left hand needle back in, wrap the yarn around, and you've made a yarn over and an SSK. And we do 1, 2, bring the yarn forward for your purl column, and bring it back. There you go. So I'm going to knit the wrong side using our right hand to hold the yarn, and make sure your yarn is in the back when you start with a knit stitch. 1, 2. And the 4th row is exactly the same as the 2nd row. You bring it forward. We're going to purl the next 12 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's some birds outside the window. I don't know if you can hear them, but they're nice and loud. It's beautiful. Alright. see how this is a knit column? So I know to bring my yarn to the back and knit the next 4 stitches. Probably do a time lapse for the next 4 rows, and just know that the difference between these next 3 rows is that you will have a purl column at the center, and I'll show you, I'll maybe stop as I get there. To the purl column, but I will show you. I'm on row 7 right now, and I just did the K2 tog and the yarn over. I did 1, 2, 3 knit stitches, and as you can kind of see right here, I have 2 purls in the middle, and these little bumps tell me that these stitches should be purled. And I did say I would teach you another way to do an SSK. So this is slightly different. So I do my yarn over. I'm going to pick up 1 stitch like this, knit the stitch next to it, and then I'm going to pick this stitch up with the left hand needle and slide it over. And that makes a very similar, if not almost exactly the same stitch. So there we go. And then purl 1, 2, 3. So here I made a little mistake. On the row before, I knit this stitch instead of purled it, and you can see that's kind of an issue. So what I'm going to do, instead of keeping it like that, I'm going to fix it. So to fix a stitch like this, you insert your right hand needle into the right leg of the stitch that's below it, and you undo it, and it's not that scary. You just kind of put your needle in there. You pick up that, and then you slide this yarn over, and there you've fixed the little naughty stitch right there. Alright. So here we just knit from about there to here.